I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. So today, welcome back, of course. Today we're going to dig beneath the sugar and the cobwebs to uncover the strange and spooky history, brief albeit, of trick-or-treating. We're going to be ringing doorbells, filling pillowcases, and shouting those three magic words, trick or treat. But the story behind this tradition isn't just about candy, of course. There's chaos, there's fear, there's community survival, and of course, marketing genius, which I always love. So how did we go from broken fences, firecrackers, and general mayhem to candy, including my favorite Snickers? Let's begin. On All Souls Day, which was beginning back in medieval Britain and Ireland, All Souls Day, the less fortunate would go door to door offering prayers for the dead in exchange for food, especially these very little pastries called soul cakes. And children would chant this, little song, a soul, a soul cake, please good missus, a soul cake. So basically, they're performing for food, right? This was the original treat in Trick or Treat. And the trick, well, we'll find out about that. In Scotland and Ireland, children also practice something called guising. And what that was they would disguise themselves in masks and visit their neighbors to earn a reward. They would have to sing a song, tell a joke, dance around, just something to get this treat. And the treat would only come after they made a performance. So they were having to basically pay for play, I guess. I don't know. The roots of trick-or-treating were there, right? But they're going door to door. They're wearing costumes. You kind of have to do something to get candy or some kind of treat. But at the root of it all, there was this fear, right? These traditions were born at a time when people actually believed the dead were near them. Good behavior would protect your home from spirits. So, or from kids, right? Some bad kids. So let's jump forward. Now we're in America. It's the late 19th, early 20th century. And the Irish and the Scottish brought their guising traditions with them when they came from overseas. But this is where things kind of got darker and, a little bit different. Halloween became a Mischief Night, and kids would soap windows, they would break fences, they would steal gates, blow up mailboxes. I even think I read a story about a cow ending up on top of something. They would knock over streetcars, or not knock over streetcars, derail them. If a kid knocked over a streetcar, I'm not messing with that kid. This wasn't, cute or kid stuff, or this was vandalism, this was destruction, this was mayhem. In a lot of cities, this would cost thousands of dollars each year during Halloween. So this only got worse during the Great Depression, when general frustration, poverty, kids just being bored, that was the formula for a powder keg, right? So this is what became where Devil's Night came from, where Mischief Night came from. The police tried to crack down on it. They tried to stop it, but nothing really worked. Halloween in that time frame was becoming just a bad time. And I'll once again, please watch Meet Me in St. Louis. There's a really, really good Halloween scene in that kind of shows this destruction. So how do you stop it? Well, like anything with kids, sadly, you got to bribe the kids. So women's clubs, neighborhood groups, city leaders, they all started trying to figure out, what are we going to do? So they would organize Halloween parties, costume parades, and what we now mostly know as trick-or-treating, where you go house to house and get candy. Of note, and I've got to look this up because I don't know if it's exactly true. I always doubt dates. Supposedly, the earliest mention of the words trick or treat appeared in newspapers in the 30s. But what that meant was kids now know, give us candy or we're going to cause mayhem. And it sounds, I don't know, it just sounds bad on paper, but it worked. The mischief and some of the mayhem, the bad stuff stopped happening. And I want to bring up, because a lot of this next short topic is kind of overlooked when it comes to Halloween. And I live in Mississippi, very close to an Indian reservation. So this was something I wanted to make sure I added to the podcast. Not every community embraces Halloween or embraced Halloween the same way. Native American families do take part in trick-or-treating and local celebrations and costumes and all that, but a lot of them don't. Sometimes they see Halloween as a colonial holiday that, has erased or commercialized certain practices that were more sacred. Of course, there's the stereotypical Native American costumes where, sexy Indian princess or sexy whatever. I mean, the problem with Halloween is they try to make sexy everything. But even just headdresses or war paint or, dressing up like stereotypical Indian, why would they like that? And it doesn't just look bad. It's cultural appropriation. It's just theft. It's just a bad look. So, also, and I want to look into this more, but I don't think Native American cultures and a lot of other cultures, which is kind of not good. So in many indigenous traditions, the medicine people are revered, and witches are kind of chaotic, not something they want to celebrate. So I want to get into that more at some point, but there are Native American communities that blend Halloween into their own traditions. A lot of them see it as a time to, just have a good time. So I would love to explore this topic much more, but I wanted to at least bring it up. And, not everyone celebrates Halloween the same way. And there's plenty of reasons why. So back to America. Now we're in the World War II times where everything was rationed, including sugar. So that's Halloween almost died then because the candy went away. Couldn't have sugar. But what happened when the war ended? Those candy companies were there. They were ready. The 50s brought suburbs, young families. They all wanted to have something to do. They wanted to celebrate. So Hershey's and Mars and Tootsie Roll and Brock's and all these candy companies, their job was to market Halloween as a safe solution to, Halloween chaos. Plus, they wanted to make a bunch of money, right? So they made candy, fun-sized and individually wrapped, and trick-or-treating became part of the whole, American dream that was sold to so many people, like having your lawn manicured or a 2-car garage or, a 4-person family, all these, the typical, stereotypical American dream. So by the 70s, Halloween was probably the biggest candy selling and buying holiday in the United States. In fact, roughly, and this is just an estimate because it probably has gone up, but candy companies make almost $4 billion a year just during Halloween. So Halloween commercialized, right? Candy aisle became a battlefield almost because everyone's trying to get their segment and become the best Halloween candy. And I actually did a podcast on what I think the best Halloween candy is. And I think I went through someone's list of what they thought was the best and kind of went over each candy. That was fun. Anyway, with everything, of course, there's fear. So in the 70s, one of the things that was getting reported during Halloween time and trick-or-treating was, razor blades in the apples or poison chocolate or drugs being in the candy. So, of course, parents panicked. Schools warned the students. Local news ran these segments all the time during Halloween time, warning people. I think some hospitals even were x-raying candy. But here's the thing. I've looked this up. There's a guy named Joel Best. He's a sociologist. He studied this phenomenon for decades. And what did he find out? Most of the reports were hoaxes, or they were very isolated incidents involving one particular family member. And it wasn't really to do with Halloween. It was just an opportunity. The fear was real, of course, but the actual truth and history of it, a little bit exaggerated. In fact, what is the actual threat generally for Halloween? It's cars, kids getting hit. Kids are 3 times more likely to get hit by a vehicle on Halloween night than any other night of the year. So that's statistics. That's facts, right? But, it's easier to sell Candy Panic and Satanic Panic and all these other things that get associated with Halloween and trick-or-treating. Those are easier. It's an easier sell, easier headline. So what did communities do because of this? Well, that's where your trunk or treats came from. That's where your, trick-or-treating at a mall or school carnivals or things like that. Trick-or-treating still existed, but somewhat different for a lot of people. So now, in today's times, they're still trick-or-treating, but it's different. Like, you may live in a town that no one trick-or-treats in, or you may live in a town that the entire community gets together and still has, the traditional, what you consider trick-or-treating, where every house has candy and everybody goes out as a community and trick-or-treats. Lots of communities go all out, do animatronics and haunted houses and give out full-size candy bars and, the dream Halloween scenario, right? But a lot of them have scaled back. A lot of people, it's too expensive for Halloween now. Like, people don't have disposable income like they used to. Depends on the economy a lot. A lot of people cite safety reasons for not letting kids trick or treat. Some people are concerned just culturally, like they don't want, devil worshiping. There's plenty of reasons why trick or treating is not the thing for some people, and that's their prerogative. But I still believe trick or treating is a fun, safe, blast. We generally work on we generally work on Halloween. My wife runs a coffee shop. I run a collectible shop, or I'm putting on an event. In fact, this year I am putting on an event on Halloween night, and I'm going to do trick-or-treating at the event because I want kids to have somewhere to go and, have fun. So, even in the exact same town, Halloween can mean different things to different families. Some people do it, some people don't. Especially in the South, it's sporadic. It's all over the place. But it's always going to evolve like everything. So why does trick-or-treating still stick around? Why is it still here? Because it's not all about, getting candy and dressing up and the costumes and all that. It's a community connector. It's, you get to act out and dress up like your favorite character. It's very similar, like cosplay. That's why it's so popular. You get to kind of try to scare people, but it's safe. You're kind of putting fear in others, but not so much that it's criminal. And I mean, a big thing is you're teaching kids to be generous, and you're teaching people that the community is very important. So, let's get together and do this for our community. It's a ritual. It's a rite of passage. It's, it's spooky. So that's fun. So, there's all these things that trick-or-treating is involved with, and it just boils down to it being fun. So, and, every time you knock on a door and get ready to say trick-or-treat, you are carrying on a tradition. This has been going on in some form for a really, really long time. So, that's awesome. But it's always going to change forms. It'll cross over with different cultures. It'll survive. Trick-or-treating will be around forever. I still expect and hope every year that we get trick-or-treaters at our door or at our office or our business or wherever. I want it to happen. So I'm going to continue to, push it and talk people into doing it in whatever form they do it. At least, do something. So, what are we going to talk about on the next podcast? I'll let you know in a second. But here are some books if you want to read more about Halloween and trick-or-treating. These are some really good books. Death Makes a Holiday by David Scull is a wonderful book. Trick or Treat, A History of Halloween by Lisa Morton, one of my favorites, one of my favorite people. So those two books are great. They're a really good backstory on a lot of this stuff. So for you, like, what's your earliest Halloween memory? Have you ever experienced or have you even heard of Mischief Night or Devil's Night? Do you know what that is? Do you think those safety issues like the razor blades and all that, do you think they changed Halloween forever? Or is it something that eventually people will forget about and it'll be a tall tale that, like Paul Bunyan, just be this really cool story that's not really true? How should Halloween be celebrated in our multicultural society? Like, what should we do anything different, or should we respect Halloween the way it is? What would you do to change trick-or-treating? Somebody decided one day we're going to do trick-or-treating out of a trunk of a car, and now that's a thing. So what would you do to make trick-or-treating different and safer or whatever? I'd love to hear it. So you can send me a mail on the podcast page. There's a section to send fan mail, so that's cool. But yeah, trick-or-treating, I believe will always be around in some form. Hopefully. But we'll see. So next podcasts, I'm going to tackle one of the most iconic symbols of Halloween ever, the witch. That'll be fun. But until then, I want you guys to stay sweet, stay aware, stay spooky, and always preserve Halloween.